Hello ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I am going to start a little three-part series where I take a look at 10 young players who I think you should be watching out for next season in each area of the pitch. So this video is going to be about defenders, I'm going to do a midfielders and an attackers video as well. So hopefully not only do you enjoy it, but it's also going to be reasonably informative as well. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first player we're going to talk about is Isaac Toure from FC Lorient. He plays as a centre half, he's 21 years old, and he stands at 6'7" tall, which I believe makes him the tallest outfield player in any European league. Toure has played 48 Ligue 1 games across the last 2 seasons. However, last year he did get relegated with FC Lorient, but I wouldn't let that fool you because he was a shining light in that side. I've kind of gone out on a little bit of a limb in terms of he kind of has to get a move to turn out as one to watch next season, but he has been rumoured in recent weeks to be in the running for a move to the Premier League, with the likes of Fulham and Wolves both looking at him, and to be honest, I do actually think either of those sides would be a good move. As you'd expect, standard 6'7", he's an extremely dominating physical presence. He's really good in the air, strikers very rarely get a jump on him, but he's also very good athletically, and he's also quick as well, so if he does ever get caught out of position, then he is able to recover extremely well. And I mention him getting caught out of position because he's also extremely progressive. He's quite unorthodox in terms of he loves to find himself in those areas around the opposition's box, and he likes to create chances. When progressing the ball, he does prefer to dribble out from the back rather than play a pass. But he does also have a good vision and a good passing range as well, so he is able to if needs be. He just does prefer that driving out and getting his team up the field. I do think Toure's style could appeal quite well to the Premier League. He's almost like a bit of a more physical Fabian Schär in terms of that progression that I've previously mentioned. Obviously the Premier League does have a reputation for being quite a physical league, but he also does have an extremely good technical base as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him move over and not look out of place at all as well. The only issue I can maybe see with him moving to the Premier League is Lorient and Bournemouth are in a multi-club system, so I don't know whether Bournemouth would be that keen on letting him go to a rival like Fulham or Wolves, but then again, Lorient have just been relegated and they do need the money, so don't be surprised if you do see him get a move this summer either. And then moving on to a player just signed by Bournemouth, actually from Italian outfit Juventus for €15 million, and that is Dean Howson. And I honestly think this could be a massive steal for Bournemouth, because when you watch him play, he genuinely has all of the attributes to possibly become a world-class defender in the next few years, and he's only 19, so he's still got a couple of years to grow physically as well. Howson is very effective with both feet in pretty much every area of the game. It bodes to him being able to break lines extremely well, and his progressive passing is extremely good. He can manipulate the ball with either his left or his right, which means that he very rarely finds himself in trouble. But he also, not only passing wise, but he also likes to progress into midfield with his dribbles. He kind of does a similar role to what we've seen John Stones in the past couple of years at Manchester City. I think this is an extremely good move for Bournemouth. It's very astute. They've been able to get him for €15 million from Juventus, and I do think that the Italian outfit are going to regret this in years to come when he becomes what I think is going to be a world-class player. The next player on this list is another centre-half, but he can also play left-back, and that is Jurel Hato from Ajax. Excuse the pronunciation if I got that wrong. He's probably one of the most well documented in the list. He's played 46 games so far for Ajax at just 18 years old. And obviously Ajax did struggle last year. They managed to recover their Eredivisie season to 5th, but there was a point where they looked like they could even maybe get relegated. But Hato's been an extremely vital part of that turnaround last year, and I expect him to continue that form going into next season. Hato is a clear product of the total football ideology, and he adds to the list of progressive centre-halves that we've already seen, but he also does have a defensive stability and maturity that is way beyond his years. Standing at 5'11", he isn't the most physical presence, and that's maybe why I can say him moving to left back as he gets older. But then again, his football and IQ means that he very rarely gets put in a position where that physicality does come into question. The football and IQ also allows him to be extremely comfortable on the ball. Again, he's comfortable with both feet, and he's really good at playing his way out of trouble. If he does end up as a left back, I think he'll probably suit a team who play with inverted fullbacks more so he can use those on the ball capabilities. He's also athletic, so he can go around the outside too, but I'd say he's probably more suited to an inverted role, at least at this stage. He's at a club in Ajax who've notoriously been good at making profits on their young players. Granted, some of those in recent years haven't gone on to fulfil their potential, the likes of Donny van der Beek, but I don't think Jurel Hato is going to fall into that category at all. The way he plays at the minute, he's way beyond his years in terms of maturity, and I think that playstyle is only going to grow and continue to get better as the experience grows. We've got another player in Ousmane Diomande who plays for a club in Sporting from Portugal who like to sell players on for profit, and I do think that Diomande is going to be another one who they can do that with. He's already been linked this summer and in the January transfer window with a move to a Premier League club, and it'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition. I can see him in the next couple of transfer windows moving on to a big European club and flourishing as well. He's yet another product of the more modern vision of centre-backs, extremely good on the ball, very good at playing out from the back. Again, another physical presence, but he also does again have that defensive solidity that you need from a centre-back as well. He can often be a little bit too aggressive and over-eager in his defending, but that's something that'll grow with age and experience. Having said all that, I do think that if he does move, a possession-based system would probably be one that suits him best for now. But then again, with that aggressiveness he's got, I wouldn't be surprised if he did also flourish in maybe a high-intensity pressing system, as he does like to get aggressive with the striker, and this is something that could bode well for him as well. But don't be surprised if you see Diomande go to a bigger club in the next couple of seasons. Then we move on to Pau Cubarsí from Barcelona, and he's probably, or at least I expect him to be, the most well-known on this list. He played 19 games in Liga last season for Barcelona, and I actually think that he could even play a bigger role this season with Araujo now spending half of his life on the physio table. I think Cubarsí could become their starting centre-back. The only thing I hope is that he doesn't play too much, because as we've seen in recent years, Barcelona do like to play the La Masia graduates into the ground, and they often become burnt out. The likes of Pedri, who played like 75 games in his first professional season, and also Ansu Fati to an extent as well. But now they've got Hansi Flick as manager, and I do think that he will measure Cubarsí's minutes more than previous managers may have done. So I don't expect this to be as big of a problem as you might expect. Cubarsí's on the ball ability matches that and probably exceeds that of the players we've already talked about on this list. His passing range is so cultured. His vision is extremely good as well, but his football IQ and his calmness on the ball means that he very rarely rushes these passes. He reads the game exceptionally well, and his anticipation and calmness also means that he very rarely gets caught out defensively. If he does need to get physical with a striker, his physical maturity is way beyond what you'd expect to see from a 17-year-old, and that's something that's only going to grow as well, so we could be looking at an absolute monster in years to come. Then we're moving on to the first right back on the list, and that is Juan Luis Sanchez from Sevilla. And last year was his first full season as a top-level professional, and I'm going to be honest, he didn't really let anybody down. Obviously, Sevilla struggled last year. They finished 14th or 15th, I think, in the Liga in the end. But Juan Luis Sanchez was not one of the causes of that, and he had a really solid season considering how poor Sevilla were. Sanchez has got extremely good stats across the board, and he's a very good mix of both attacking intent but also defensive stability. He can play as either a more modern fullback, overlapping and underlapping. He can do both those roles very well. But he can also slot into a flat back four should whatever team he plays for need to be more solid. He's very adept in 1-versus-1 defending, and he doesn't mind being left in a situation where he is 1-versus-1 with an attacker. But when he does win the ball, he's also extremely progressive, and he's good at turning defence into attack. He's got a good eye for a pass, but he can also drive with the ball as well. He's an extremely good ball carrier. When Sanchez does advance into the opposition's half to join attacks, he prefers to play on his right foot. So he does like to get down the line on the overlap and put crosses into the box, and his cross variation is extremely good as well, and he's got pinpoint accuracy, so he often puts it on the attacker's head when he does put crosses in. Overall, I do expect him to be picked up by a bigger club than Sevilla if they do continue this poor run of form, but if they do get back to that Europa League status that they've had in recent years, then expect to see Juan Luis Sanchez stay there and perform extremely well. But I do think eventually we're going to see him in one of Europeans' big teams. Then we've got Michael Kayode, who is a right back who can also play a right wing back, and he's extremely effective when he does so as well. He can also play left back, and he has done for at least youth teams on a few occasions, and this versatility is something that's only going to bode well for him. Kayode has shown his intent in high intensity systems, and he does like to put pressure on the opposition aggressively and try and win the ball back high, and this is complemented well by his athleticism and his pace, which aid him when he does need to recover if he does end up getting beaten. When Fiorentina do win the ball high, Kayode is given license to roam and push forward and join that attacking threat, and he's extremely good when he does so as well. He's good in 1v1 situations. He kind of almost approaches them like a winger in terms of he's got that fearless style to try and take on his man. And again, with that pace and athleticism, he doesn't mind losing the ball in 1v1 situations, so he is able to put the ball at risk. I wouldn't actually be surprised in the coming years if we saw him move up the pitch, maybe to a more winger type position, because he's extremely good there and he can go outside on his right foot, but he's also comfortable coming in on his maybe weaker left foot as well. And his decision making is good when he gets there, which makes him a nuisance for any defender. And sticking with that theme of 1v1s, when he is defending, he doesn't mind getting into 1v1 positions, and his pace means that he's very rarely well beaten, but he doesn't rely on his pace, and he is very solid defensively, and he often wins the ball back without the need for that pace. Links to clubs like Aston Villa have already arisen this summer, and I think it is a club like Villa. I don't know if he'll end up there, but it's a club like Villa who will be good for him because they do allow their fullbacks to get forward and help the attacks, without really putting too much defensive onus on them. But again, if that is needed, Coyote can do that. Then moving back to the other side now, and we've got Lewis Hall, who maybe I am a little bit biased to include because I'm a Newcastle fan, but honestly I think his ceiling's so high. Last year he didn't play as much as many fans wanted him to, but there was a few issues around, because he was on loan from Chelsea, so there was a few issues around whether that deal was going to be made permanent or not, so I think that's probably why. But this year I do expect him to be first choice. Hall has shown good defensive qualities. He's been really good in 1v1 defending, which is extremely important to Eddie Howe's system because that system can often leave fullbacks vulnerable. He's also got very good positional awareness and recovery pace as well. So if a team ever does try to catch Newcastle on the counter, you can bank on the fact that Lewis Hall will be there to help out defensively. On the ball, Hall's background of coming through in Chelsea's academy as more of a midfielder has meant that his comfortability on the ball is really good. He's got a very good eye for a pass, and he's also very progressive as well. But not only that, when he does play a forward pass, he likes to continue and get involved in the attacks, which often sees him create 2v1 situations with the opposition's fullback when Newcastle are going forward. Another staple of his game is his football IQ, and his decision making is extremely good. He knows when to be aggressive, he knows when to be conservative, both defensively and attacking, and it makes him an extremely reliable player. He's not one you really have to worry about. He's going to put in a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week, and you don't really need to worry about him making any mistakes. He's a Newcastle fan, so I hope he stays at Newcastle, but Newcastle's project is going to need players like him to thrive, and I think he's got all the tools to be able to do that in the coming years. And actually I think he's one to really watch out for next season, because I think he could put in some extremely good performances for a season that Newcastle are trying to get back on track after missing out on Europe last year. Then we have Jean-Noël Bolasie, who has this summer signed for Leverkusen after a decent season last year at Rennes, which saw him play 23 League One games. I maybe don't expect him to play straight away for Leverkusen, as they do have some more established options, but Jonathan Tah could possibly be on the way out to Bayern Munich, so don't be surprised if you do see him play more minutes than you might expect from him this season. And I wouldn't be surprised either if we maybe saw him play on the left hand side of a back three, and I think this could be good for him because he does have some errors which he does need to improve upon. So if he is playing alongside two other centre backs, then he is able to be covered if he does make any mistakes. One of the main things to note about Bolasie is that he seems to be a born leader, and sometimes that can be all you need to take you far in football. But alongside that, he does have a strong technical base as well, and he is quite good defensively too. He just needs maybe a couple more years to improve, but I think Leverkusen could be a good place for him to do that. Bolasie is comfortable on the ball, but it's often his awareness that stops him getting caught in possession. He can sometimes take a couple of seconds too long to pick a pass, but that's something that is going to come and is going to improve as he continues to play. He also has a prominent physical presence, which allows him to control the movements of the attackers rather than have to anticipate what they're going to do next. And he is strong in 1v1 situations as well. He's more of a traditional centre-back in terms of he doesn't particularly get involved in many attacks, but he is able to do so, and he does have a good passing range should he need to get involved and create chances for his teammates. And overall, I do think there's still areas of his game that need to improve, but Leverkusen could be the club that he is able to improve them at, and I wouldn't be surprised again if we see glimpses of him in the coming season. Last but not least, we have 19-year-old Willy Kambwala, who made his breakout last year for Manchester United, but has now signed for Villarreal. I think it was about 10 million euros in the end, and hopefully this is a move that's going to bring him more playing time and more regular minutes on the pitch. I would still expect that Man United are going to have some sort of clause to buy him back, whether that be a big sell-on clause so if they get a lot of money in the future, or whether that be a buyback clause, because he does look like an extremely good prospect, and I was a little bit surprised when I saw them let him go for 10 million euros. I'd probably say Kambwala is considered more of a traditional centre-back, as he does favour that more defensive side of the game. He's physically imposing, he's often very aggressive, and he isn't afraid to get stuck in with the attacker either. He's also very quick, which enables him to recover quickly as well if he does ever find himself out of position. There's room for improvement with his on-the-ball abilities, but he has shown glimpses that he does have a good passing range and that he does have good vision for a pass. So don't be surprised if this is something we see continue to grow as he's at Villarreal, and if he ever comes back into the European spotlight, which I expect him to, that we'll see a much improved on that side of his game. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you haven't already, subscribe below if you want to see more, and leave a comment if there's any players I missed out or if there's any players that you think we should be watching out for next season. But I'll hopefully see you in the midfielders video, which should come out in about a week or maybe 2 weeks time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.